Today I want to give you a quick overview of the Photos app in iOS 8. This is on my iPad. So here's the Photos app. I'll tap to launch it. And in this case, I find myself in the Photos view that you can see down at the bottom of the screen. There are two, let's call them modes, Photos and Albums. So first we're in Photos. This particular view is called Years, the Years view, which you can see titled at the top, Years. And it's obviously separated into years. So I can go all the way back. In my case, I have been collecting my digital photos or scanned photos since 2000. And, you know, obviously, except for those who have very sharp eyesight, it's kind of difficult to see individual photos, but uh, I don't have a good example here, but let's say you took a vacation to the beach. You would probably see a lot of photos together in groups that would, you'd sort of be able to tell that it's a beach scene. Down here, I see a lot of pictures with what looks like a person with a red shirt. So if I tap on here, oh, it's my wife with her red outfit. And as I drag my picture around here, my finger dragging over the pictures, you can sort of get these larger thumbnails, and then you can, if you happen to see one that you like or that you want, you can just let go at that point. And there's my one of my cousins, actually my wife's cousin in Rome, with her daughter, not her daughter, her dog, Lucky Lulu. Okay, so let's go back to years by tapping on that button that you see at the top left. It says years. Okay, so this is years. We can then move on to the next scene, which is, or the next view. These are called views. This is the years view. So if I tap, let's say, let me go back to 215 down here, and I tap where it says 215. We will see. This is important because uh, it's not very obvious, and a lot of people thought that this particular feature had been removed. But by tapping on the line where it has the year and the locations, this is where you can bring up the maps view. And of course, in 2015, I took a lot of pictures in the Rome area as well as Sicily. So as you zoom down by spreading two fingers in and out for zoom, we see that at the Rome airport, there are 7 pictures. And in fact, if I tap on these, there are the pictures that I took of our US Air flight back to Philadelphia and in the plane waiting to leave. So those are the coordinates that are stored by camera, by the iPhone camera in this case, part of the metadata. Notice at the top we go back to the 2015 view. There are a couple other controls for slideshow. In other words, these 6, 7 pictures, I could actually tap on there and show them to someone in a slideshow fashion with transitions and timings and things like that. You can also select these pictures for emailing, for printing, for filing in other folders. So I'm going to tap back on 2015 to go back to this map view. So map view is very nice. It's just another way to uh, organize photos. Okay, so that as I zoom out into the stratosphere, it's funny though that Oh, that's right. And this is 2015, and we left Sicily to go to Rome on the actually the 31st. So I have no pictures from Sicily in this set because this is 2015. Of course, if we go across the pond, since then I've taken 184 pictures in, oh look, a couple of them in my wife's sister's home, and the rest of them here in the Wilmington area. Chad's Ford, this would be Longwood Gardens. So this is a very nice feature, and there's more here to explore. This is just an overview, and I've already talked too much about it. So to get to the map feature, you would just simply tap on where down here, for example, it says 2015, Latium, Arizona, Delaware, etc., etc. Okay, now I'm just going to tap on one picture here. And notice at the top it says moments. That's because we are, right now I'm looking at one picture. And as I travel back, these are the moments views where you actually see individual pictures and the dates. They're called moments. These used to be called events for those who are on Mac computers and were using iPhoto. The view before this is collections. So we're sort of drilling back out. So within date ranges, these are collections based on either location or times. You can see the times, the dates, like date ranges at the right. And then we go back to years. Okay, the other view down at the bottom, or the other way of looking at your photo, which is generally what I tend to do, is the albums, because I'm very organized. I've made a lot of albums. These top ones here that you see are the ones that are uh, already set for you. Favorites, because any photo you can do, you can tap the little heart, it goes into a special album called Favorites. Panoramas, if you're using your panorama mode on the later iPhone models and iPad models. It's a wonderful feature. There's a goofball again. Uh, these are prepared for you. In other words, when you import pictures, the camera has already indicated that these are panorama mode shots, and so it places them in these albums. And of course, you can assign these to other albums as well. We have videos, slow-mo. This is a feature of the iPhone, and for slow motion. Burst photos is another feature. We have a hidden album, which I will not show you today. We have also recently deleted. This is a nice feature. Anytime you delete photos, they're stored in a special album for 30 days, and for each photo, and they're just sort of rolled off into oblivion as time proceeds. And of course, if this is sort of a method of saving yourself from yourself. If you accidentally delete something, you can, let's say, um, hit select and tap on a picture, and then you'll see up here it says recover. Okay, so the one thing I didn't mention, but I think you understand by now, is that anything I do on this iPad, I can see on all my devices that are associated with my iCloud account. Um, any albums I create here will show up there. But the most important thing now is that all my photos, I think there's about, excuse me, about 7,500, uh, are viewable on all my devices. It's not like before where we had to pick and choose and transfer the photos to the device. These are the actual albums I've created. People, or actually, these are folders that contain albums. So, um, people contains a number of albums of people that I know, family members. So these are all the albums that I create. Cute animals, selfies. Let's take a look here at this album here, this goofball. The last thing I want to show you, and remember this is just an overview, is the editing mode real quick. Let's say let's choose this goofy picture here. By the way, this clock that you see at the lower right is because it's downloading the full resolution version from my iCloud account, because I selected that feature of just storing optimized versions just for this iPad, so that these 7,000 photos don't all actually exist on the iPad. Otherwise, I'd run out of room quickly. Up at the top, you see the heart to favorite this, and I will, and it gets placed into that favorites album. And then the edit button down here, and by the way, down at the bottom, I can just flip between all these pictures. So get back to this one. Okay, you get to see all these goofy shots here. Let me go a little slower. There we go. Now I'm going to hit the edit button at the top, and here we have all the editing tools. These are also available on the iPhone, by the way. We have a quick fix edit tool. I don't really use this, but every once in a while I like to activate it to see what the iPad or the Photos app thinks should be done to this photo. So I'll turn that off. This is the crop tool. Photos tries to straighten, but ultimately you can fix this yourself. Let's go back in there. Okay, you have a little scale here that allows you to rotate. You can place the picture around, and you can, let me do it this way. Let's do this. Get those pearly whites in there. And over here you see a reset. Up here at the top left, you can flip the photo. Down here at the bottom left, you can constrain the picture to ratios, like, for example, if you were to send this print to a 5:7, and I think everyone should, select 5:7, and it gives you the proper ratio so that you can get a nice 5:7 print. And of course, you can select here. You can crop here in this mode too. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that, and go down on these tools on the left edge. Go down to the next tool that controls basically color modes. There's certain filters that you can apply. Okay. But I'm going to go back and select none up at the top. Okay. The next tool down, this one's a very important tool. It adjusts exposure issues. So, for example, light here. If you think your photo is underexposed or overexposed, you can make this type of adjustment. The little menu indicator underneath is very important. If I tap that, these are individual controls that allow you to fine-tune. So this is exposure, for example. This is something that the more advanced photographers are always looking for in photo editing applications. So you have highlights, shadows, contrast. The shadow. My face here is a little bit in the shadows. So let's see what I can do. Now this is a JPEG photo, so there are some limitations. So if I just play with the shadows, you can see that background building, okay, it's a monument to the reunification of Italy, more or less stays unchanged, but my face here that's in the shadows gets most of the adjustments. So that's very important. There's a brightness. No, I don't want to do the brightness. Let's go back to highlights. And this allows me to adjust more of those brighter areas, and the face actually doesn't change that much. Okay. Contrast and black point are pretty important to me. I generally like to increase the contrast in my photos. But what's interesting here is if I reduce contrast, you can actually see my eye and the fact that I'm doing a selfie. So by increasing the contrast, that eye disappears. So contrast is pretty interesting, and I definitely like to adjust contrast. Most of the times pictures are pretty flat. And there's some other controls. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of that mode, and that more or less, um, that's the light part on exposure controls. Down here at the bottom, we can also play around with color. Okay, we can intensify the color. This desaturates. Sometimes I prefer like a little desaturated look. You don't want to go this high because it looks like, there's some kind of nuclear explosion in front of you. But I like to desaturate on some pictures like this, sort of subdued colors. And of course, there are other color controls here, so that's very good. And then finally, down we have black and white controls, where different kinds of adjustments based on tonalities. Okay, it doesn't just turn a picture black and white. You can actually manipulate these tonalities, play with the neutrals, the tone, the grain. Okay, so this is sort of like in the olden days when we used to put color filters on cameras when we were taking black and white shots. So you can come out with some pretty interesting effects. And then you can increase grain to give it sort of that grainy look, especially to a gritty person like this. Okay, and that's basically it. There are other features, but I think that's it for this overview. And I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.